Revered Swami Shuddhidananda Maharaj, Swami Shuddhidananda Maharaj, and all the revered sannyasis assembled here, my devoted pranams to all of you. Sri Ramakrishna and all the dear devotees assembled here, my affectionate namaskars to all of you. It gives me a great sense of joy to be present here on this very important occasion of the centenary of this beautiful center at Jamshedpur, for which I express my gratitude to Revered Swami who gave me this invitation, and I am honored by that. Today's topic of discussion is a very important one. Its importance cannot be over-exaggerated. That is, what is the need to develop a strong character? Why do we need men and women to be of a strong character? It's a very important question. Why? If we just study Swami Vivekananda's words, all of us, we have studied Swami's words, you will find Swami is stressing this point repeatedly. He says, what the world today wants is character. The world is in need of those whose life is a burning, selfless love. It is that burning, selfless love which will make every word tell like a thunderbolt. We want brave, bold, pure, selfless men and women. 100 such in the world shall be revolutionized. 100,000 such men and women, fired with the zeal of holiness and fortified by their eternal faith in the Lord, would go throughout the length and breadth of this land, preaching the gospel of salvation, the gospel of social raising up. These are the very powerful exhortations which we find in Swamiji's speeches, in his letters, and Swamiji has stressed this point to its utmost, because it is this one point, man and women with towering character. This is the one thing which is going to bring about true wonderful transformations in the society. Again, the question is, why do we need to develop a strong character? Because it is this men and women with strong character which can ensure the well-being of the entire human society, number one. And the other side of it is that it is only the men and women of a strong character who can attain the spiritual goal in life. So if we just look into the subject, why do we need to have a strong character? Its purpose is twofold. One is the well-being of the entire society, and the other is one's own individual well-being. Now the next question comes, how do we develop a strong character? What is the way to develop a strong character? If we go to our scriptures, our shastras, we will find that when a human being adheres to the principles of dharma, it is through the adherence to the principles of dharma that a human being can develop a strong character. Now the next question is, what do we mean by dharma? Now this dharma term is a term which has got a wide range of meanings. But here in this context of this character development, dharma means the best thing that we go from Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there, Bhagavan Shuddhidananda, he talks about dharma, and he presents dharma as a bull with 4 feet. This bull has got 4 feet. Dharma has got 4 feet. What are these 4 feet of the dharma? So he says, dharma is comprised of 4 important ingredients. Number 1, satya. Number 2, dhamma. Number 3, shaucha. And number 4, daya. What does it mean? Dharma is made up of satya, truthfulness. It is made up of tapas. Tapas means austerity. Austerity means this capacity of the human beings to restrain themselves physically, mentally, the control over the sensory system and the control over the mind. This is what goes into this wonderful discipline called austerity or tapas. This is an important ingredient of dharma. Third one is shaucha. Shaucha means purity, physical purity as well as mental purity, leading a pure life. And the last point is daya. Daya means compassion. Now, when a human life is based upon these 4 beautiful virtues, the virtues of truthfulness, the virtues of self-control and self-restraint, the virtue of purity, external as well as internal, and the virtue of daya, compassion, that person is bound to become like a God-like individual. Now, let us just look at the opposite of this. When we do just the opposite of what has been stated till now, what will happen is that we will be leading a life which is based upon adharma. A life based upon adharma is that which is based upon untruth, asatya. That which is based upon sensory indulgences. It cannot be austere life, it is just the opposite of austerity. It is a life which is given to hedonistic pleasures. Adharma means it is a life which is given to impurity. And adharma means it will be a life where the man and the woman will not be compassionate, but he will be leading a life which is based upon enmity, cruelty, etc., etc. Now, when the human life is based upon these things, what is actually happening is, that is best expressed in the words of the great thinker, Bhartrihari. Bhartrihari says that Yesham na vidya na tapo na dharma na jnanam na sheelam na guno na dharma te bhakti bhubibhara bhuta manushya rupena mrigascharam. A beautiful utterance which tells us what happens when a human being leads a life based upon adharma. He will become an animal moving in a human form. Manushya rupena mrigascharam. Yesham na vidya na tapo na dharma. A person in whose life there is no vidya, there is no tapas. There is no dana, there is no jnana, no shilam, no guna, no dharma. They madhyaloke bhuvibhara buddha. But they are saying that person will be a burden on this mother earth. And he is just like an animal moving in a human form. This is the outcome of a life which is led based upon adharma. Manushya Vedanta. And the opposite picture of this is, we can say, it is Manushya Devashram. When a human being leads a life based upon dharma, he will be gods moving in human forms. Now Swami Vivekananda wanted exactly this. He wanted to transform the human society by increasing the numbers of human beings who are actually godlike. Now when you ask this one question, this seems to be a very poetic picture which Swamiji is painting, where we have godlike men and women moving around in the society, not animals and devils moving in the human form. Do we have a real example of this? Did we ever have a state where society was filled with such godlike human beings? Yes, we have such a state where in India itself, let us go back into history. When we go back into history, we have to use that wonderful term, once upon a time. When we go back 1,000 years, 1,500 years, before the Islamic invasion took place in this land, we see an India which is totally different from what we find today. Let us not forget this point that India was known to be Arya. This is the Arya Bhumi. And what do we mean by Arya? Swami Vivekananda talks about this in his complete works. This is Arya. Bharat is Arya, Arya Bhumi, and we are not Arya. Now the next question is, what do we mean by becoming Aryas? So the definition of Aryas, one of a very famous scholar, he is giving this definition of Arya. Who is an Arya? He says, Ashrama Durachara Doshebhyo Duram Gatah Shiksha Sabhyata Vidyadabhi Devaspatvam Prapta Iti Arya. A beautiful definition. He says, Asabhyata Durachara Duram Gatah. A person who has become devoid of asabhyata and durachara. A person who has become free from evil conduct and uncontrolled conduct. Very important point. And then he says, Vidya Sabhyata Shiksha Vidhi Devaspatvam Prapta. Through Shiksha, through Sabhyata, and through Vidya, he has almost become like a godlike person. He is an Arya. In short, Arya means what? Atyanta Susanskrita Vyakti. A human being who is Atyanta Susanskrita. Now just imagine, my dear devotees, India was Aryavarta. The very name of this land is where such Aryas inhabited this great subcontinent called Bharatvarsh. And it is because of this that India was so prosperous. Let us hold one point. The prosperity of India was not the prosperity of just like the Westerners or the Europeans. They became prosperous by booting on other continents. India was prosperous not by booting other continents. India became prosperous because of such men and women of towering talent. We should know, this again reminds me of that wonderful definition which Bhagavan Shankaracharya gives in his Gita Bhashya. In his Gita Bhashya he says, you see, we are talking about dharma. What is this dharma? Shankaracharya says, dharma is that it is abhyudhaya nishreyasa sadhana. Dharma is what? It is the sadhana, the means of attaining abhyudhaya as well as nishreyasa. So beautiful. When we lead a life which is based upon dharma, its direct outcome is going to be abhyudhaya. Abhyudhaya means material prosperity, and nishreyasa means spiritual illumination. This is exactly what Swami Vivekananda was talking about. We want men and women of towering character. And this towering character can be built upon only when we begin to adhere to the principles of dharma. When we deviate from the principles of dharma, what will happen is we will be having devils moving in human forms. And contrasting to that, we have another picture, that is gods moving in human form. Manusharupena Devasharanti. Now, that is the great work which Ramakrishna Mission's education institution has been doing. Now, this institution, Jamshedpur, this education institution here, which is completing its 100 years, what has it done? All our educational institutions in the Ramakrishna Mission, I consider them to be like temples where we strive to bring about men and women who are gods in human form. After all, that is the main purpose of education. As Swami Vivekananda says, education is not the amount of information which we put into our brains and which runs right there. Education should create God-like men and women. And that can happen only when the human being's life is based upon the principle of dharma. The great dharma which means satya, tapa, shaucha, and daya, as Srimad Bhagavatam says. So this is the one reason why we need to develop character. If we have to bring back the old days of India, just imagine, this is a beautiful point which is coming to my mind. When you look into the ancient India, where the situation was like this, it was a land inhabited by men who were like gods. Now, is this just a poetic, emotional kind of a statement? No. All of you know the great travelers from China, the Arabian travelers who came into India, they all have left their documents about what they found in Indian society. All of them have said, when they came, they were astonished to see this land. They said that in this country, we have not found anyone speaking a lie. In this country, we have not found any dishonest dealing. In this country, they have not found anyone stealing or robbing others. Can you imagine? The Arabian traveler writes that this is the one country where people leave their houses open and they go to other villages to do some business transaction. Can we imagine such a thing today? Today, in our own houses, if one person is moving from one room to the other room, he is suspicious of every other person. So how much of a degradation in our ethical sense and moral sense has happened, you can see from that. So this painting of Adhyaksha is not just a poetic effervescence or symbolic. It was a ground reality, it was a fact. This is Adhyaksha, men and women of great, towering character. Swami Vivekananda wanted India to once again go back to that state and set an example for the entire world. Now this is the meaning of becoming Vishnu Guru. If India has to become Vishnu Guru, it means that it has to set a benchmark, a standard of ethics and morality. We have to bring back those great days of the past. Now, second point, I'll just touch upon that and I'll wind up the talk. The second point, Swamiji says, now, if we have to have spiritual illumination, even for that you need a very strong character. A person whose life is not adhering to the principles of truthfulness, a person whose life is not adhering to the principle of austerity, self-restraint, a person whose life is not given to compassion and purity, that person will never understand the infinite potential and the infinite divinity which is residing in each one of us. So for both these purposes, you will see the development of a strong character is indispensable. In short, as the great Shankaracharya says, dharma means what? It is a sakshat abhyudhaya nishreyasa sadhana. It is a direct means to material prosperity as well as spiritual illumination. In our Puranas, just 2 more minutes. In our Puranas, we have mention of the 4 great yugas. Satyuga, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. What actually it means is, there was a state of affairs at a certain time where every member of the human society, they cling to the principles of dharma. That is something. And from there, a slow degeneration sets in. In Treta Yuga, you will find slowly adharma entering into the society. And in this way, in a progressive manner, gradually, finally we come to Kali Yuga, where adharma dominates. And only a few small number of people, they cling to the principles of dharma. I always say in recent times also, India, after our independence in 1947, we all see that right from our childhood we have seen our society. We have grown up in a society surrounded by all cultures. It used to be such a sad and depressing kind of a state. All of us have grown up in that kind of a society. And we used to feel disgusted that when are we going to come out of this disease? And in spite of that, in spite of this Indian society gripped by this cancerous disease of immorality and unethics, the disease of corruption, in spite of that, today, my dear devotees, see the promising scene. Today, India is the 5th largest economy in the world. Very soon, we are going to become the 3rd largest economy in the world. By 2047, we can expect to be at par with the most powerful nations of the world. And remember, this development cannot happen without the presence of a large chunk of extremely ethical and moral people. If this has happened in India, it is only because there has been greatly ethical and moral, godlike men and women, even in our own times. Without that, this great development would not have happened. So our challenge will be to increase the number of these so-called godlike men and women. And that can be done only by adhering to the principles of dharma as our great acharyas, great Upanishads, the great Hindu dharma teaches us. Once again, taking India back to making it real Aryavarta, real Arya Bhumi, where men and women, they lead a life which is based upon highest sense of ethics and morality. That was Swami Vivekananda's vision. Thank you so much.